tonight. I think this is the best attended events that we've had in the Hall of Distinction, and we're really, really thrilled, especially with some of the families of our honorees. It's really a privilege to be a part of this.
Hi, I'm Colleen Friend. I want to say it's been an honor to be the chair of this committee. I'm looking forward to a really exciting night. There's so many social workers here. It's really a wonderful place to network and learn what we're all doing to further the advancement of social work. Thanks for the opportunity. I know where I am.
This is one of the stellar events of social work in California, and tonight's list of inductees is just legendary. So I'm so pleased that it's here, that NASW has been able to be a co-sponsor, and it's so exciting to see all these great social workers coming together to commemorate these really fantastic Social Work Hall of Distinction inductees.
This is the most inspirational event of the year for me. I always go away feeling exhilarated and reminded why I've become a social worker. So I am hoping that as we have more of these events, that more social workers become connected and are inspired to come and join us this one night a year when we celebrate the leaders in the field.
Professor Sosa thought that I might enjoy it, to see a different side of social work, and it seemed like a really cool event, especially because it was part of the National Association of Social Workers. So it just seemed fun and that I would learn something new.
Jeanne Giovannoni, who I knew for half of a quarter of a century. She is a social worker, and it was an honor to be a colleague with her. And it was particularly an honor to have the students that she trained, who are some of the best faculty in California today. Thank you.
The person that I'm going to be nominated is Jeanne Miyano. This is his sister here, Ruth Beatles. Wonderful, wonderful man.
What an honor.
If it weren't for Jim, I wouldn't be here today. And I'll tell that story later on.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure to join James Carls, who had the vision, and I was happy to step up and play a role in founding this important recognition and to keep our history visible, to remember the wonderful legacy of key leaders in the field, and so it's great to see it continue, and I'm thrilled to see it so successful.
About the interest that's grown and the people that we've been able to honor. That's what's really wonderful. So this is marvelous. Looking forward to doing it again next year in Northern California.
So here we are, and welcome to the California Social Work Hall of Distinction. My name is Colleen Friend, and I have the honor of being the chair this year. And I want to honor my committee, and you'll hear more about that as we speak this evening. But we do have an airplane to land tonight, and we have the largest class of inductees, so we have to stay on time. So I hope I'm going to be role modeling efficiency and also timeliness. Let me proceed with my remarks. As I said, I am the chair of this event, and I also am the director of the Cal State LA Institute for Child Abuse and Family Violence. And I would like to say that I want to do a special welcome to all our inductees and their families and all their guests. It's wonderful to see this room filled. Thank you very much for being here. I'll tell you a little bit about the Social Work Hall of Distinction. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the archives. I'm going to honor our sponsors and also some of the committee members, and then I'll introduce you to our Master of Ceremonies for tonight. The California Social Work Hall of Distinction was started in 2002, and it is part of the USC School of Social Work. It is also part of the California Social Welfare Archives, and it's also known as by the acronym CSWA. The archives, again, is also supported by the USC School of Social Work and also by the USC Libraries, and both of these organizations are committed to honoring the oral histories of the people that actually grew the social welfare system in California and the agencies and the programs, and preserving this record for our students to examine later and learn lessons from. You're going to hear more about the archives from Esther Gillies when she gives her remarks. The Hall of Distinction was created to honor people who've made incredible contributions, outstanding contributions, to our profession of social work as well as the social welfare community in California. Tonight's honorees were nominated from the largest class or largest group of nominees that we've ever had submitted. So I encourage you, as you hear their qualifications, to be thinking about other colleagues that you may have who may well qualify for this honor that we may want to induct in future classes. With us tonight are several members of the committee. Now you're going to meet several of them because they're going to do the presentations to the inductees tonight. But I'd like to honor the people who may not come to the podium and just want to make sure that you know them because they're part of this really hard-working committee that did a lot of work on this event tonight. So I'd ask you in the service of time to let me name all of them. I'll ask them to stand and then we'll honor them by clapping at the end. The first one I'd like to honor is Ellen Dunbar. Ellen, would you please stand? Where are you? You moved. Okay. Ellen, great. Okay. So Ellen is a maritime faculty from California State University at Stanislaus. I'd like to also honor Susan Dvorak-Peck. Where's Susan? Susan, there you are. Great. And Susan is an ambassador of the International Federation of Social Workers. Next, I'd like to honor Joe Nunn. Joe Nunn, please stand. Joe Nunn is the retired vice chair and head director of field education at UCLA School of Social Welfare. Dick Thor. Dick, please stand. And Dick is on our committee and he's also on the CSWA board. And also we'd like to honor Jeanne M. Jeanne M is on our committee and many of you know that Jeanne M is also the executive director of NASW. Let us thank our committee members. Very hard-working group. Tonight, 7 social work leaders will be inducted into the Hall of Distinction with 60 of their colleagues. This class represents a broad set of contributors to the range of social work practice, education, and also research. Their work collectively spans over 100 years, and we're very proud to have them join the Hall of Distinction. At this point, I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors, without which we wouldn't be able to put on this wonderful reception. So, in the service of a time that we also let you have them announced and stand, and then we'll thank them at the end with our applause. First, I'd like to thank from the USC School of Social Work Dean Marilyn Flynn. And the Associate Dean for External Relations, Marlene Wagner. I want to wait till the very end. I'm trying to be a time demon here. From NASW, also Jan Lee Wong. And when Jan Lee stands, I also want to honor the service and contribution of Cheryl Rayner. What a remarkable job she's done with us too, so thank you. From California State University School of Social Work, we want to say thank you to Karen Elliott Brown. Now, Karen did tell me she may not be able to be here tonight, so I know that Victor Manalo and Rita Ledesma are here representing that school, so would you stand? And the UCLA Department of Social Welfare, thank you to Rob Schilling. To our own, the rest of these are committee members. Susan Dvorak-Peck for being a sponsor, Susan. Esther Gillies for being a sponsor, and Esther's also the president of the Social Welfare Archives. And also we'd like to thank Jill Dewar-Barrick, who couldn't be with us tonight, but is from UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare. So let us thank our sponsors. I also wanted to thank our interns who did a lot of work to put this event together, and they also registered you at the door. Where are our interns? Social work and otherwise. Would you please stand? They're probably still out there. That's why they're social workers. And I would also like to say that we owe a special debt of gratitude to Katie Mahalski, who is our staff person and is a person in our office and really put this event together. So, Katie, stand up. So now with that, I'd like to introduce Monica White. And Monica White is going to be our MC, and you're in for a treat because she MC'd last year and she does with grace every year. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Monica. Monica has served on the California Social Welfare Archives for at least 20 years, and she has been the vice chair of this committee, so she's a hard-working member of this committee as well. With an MSW and a PhD from the USC School of Social Work, Monica is a nationally recognized expert in the area of aging, and she also is an adjunct associate professor at the USC School of Social Work. So let us welcome Monica to the podium.
Thank you, Colleen. Before I start with a few remarks, I would actually have a couple of people to introduce. First of all, we want to thank an additional sponsor, Carolyn Chadwick, and everyone who's here from the Tessie Cleveland Community Services Corporation. I believe you're back here. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to introduce to you the first chair of the California Social Work Hall of Distinction when we first started in 2002, and that's June Simmons. Yeah, I know you're the right person to get everything started, that's for sure. Well, good evening. It's my honor, I really consider it a privilege to be your host for this evening. And as Colleen said, we're going to try to keep things moving. This is always such a special event. We look forward to it all year. And I'm really happy to look out here and see so many long-term friends, long-time friends, and new friends as well. And it's wonderful that we can come together and celebrate inspirational social workers. Tonight, I'm going to bring to the podium the presenters to say a few words about the inductee, and then we'll have a chance to hear from the recipient or someone from their family or someone who's representing them. It would really be possible to spend a whole evening with any one and each one of our honorees, but of course we just can't do that. So we'll just take a few minutes with everyone, and we hope that you will take the time to read your programs where there's more information. You can go to our website and get more information there as well. It's a real challenge to celebrate 7 leaders in one program. A special thank you to family members and friends, some who have flown down from Northern California. I know Dolores Rodriquez, some of your family, has flown down or driven up from San Diego, and also the family of Jeanne Giovannoni, who came down from Northern California, and family of John Wedemeyer, who drove up from San Diego. So let's begin. And as our first presenter, I would like to introduce John Oliver. He's taking a break right now from his recent retirement as director. We're all laughing. We know what that's like. As director of the School of Social Work at Cal State University, Long Beach, and he's breaking from that to join us this evening. He has an MSW from UCLA and a PhD from Brandeis. And John has served as director of that of the school there since 1998. Let's welcome John Oliver.
Good evening. Thank you, Monica, for the introduction. I bring you greetings. I bring greetings to the members of California's chapter of social work and to officers of the California Social Work Hall of Distinction, from the faculty, students, and staff of California State University School of Social Work. The school wishes to acknowledge the wonderful work that you do, and they also would like to wish you the very best in future activities. I am extremely honored to be given the opportunity to present Tessie Anita Cleveland for induction into the California Social Work Hall of Distinction. Professor Cleveland was a member of the Long Beach faculty for almost 2 decades. Our personal friendship extended over 4 decades. She was a valued confidant and dependable friend. Tessie Anita Cleveland was a highly respected and accomplished social work administrator, educator, and community activist. Endowed with an array of interpersonal and technical skills, Tessie's impact on the profession of social work was significant. Tessie was a lifelong community activist and advocate for social justice. Her contributions to the development of a more inclusive and culturally responsive network of county social services was admirable. For example, her work on the development of an organized county and state focus on medical conditions that disproportionately plagued African Americans effectively enlarged existing normative patterns of how the human service community conceptualized and delivered social services to minority consumers. Her commitment to advocacy to underserved population represents a vital aspect of her enduring legacy. Tessie also understood the importance of the role played by a diversified human service workforce in promoting fairness and equity. Her leadership in advocating for and achieving changes in the personnel hiring practices of the Departments of Social Service, Corrections, Mental Health, Family and Children's Services represents but one of many lasting contributions which she made to the landscape of social work practice in California. Committed to improving the scope of practice for social workers employed in medical settings, Tessie Cleveland developed a model social work service unit at Keene Group that has been replicated by a number of medical facilities. Incorporating a strong emphasis on continuing education, social work ethical practices, evidence-based practice, and evaluation of therapeutic outcomes, the unit which she developed epitomized cutting-edge medical social work practice. Tessie was an amazing educator. An amazing educator. She inspired students to actually accomplish more than they were capable of teaching. She has done more in mentoring young faculty persons than any individual that I could identify. She was not only accomplished, but exceedingly committed. During her tenure at Long Beach, Tessie received numerous teaching awards and was revered by both students and faculty for her expertise. Professor Cleveland's impact on the School of Social Work as a teacher was profound. Tessie Anita Cleveland was a leader in our profession. The gifts that she graciously shared with us as a social worker continue to inspire and remind us of the power of living one's life in service to others. Joining me now at the podium to accept the plaque signifying his mother's induction into the California Social Work Hall of Distinction is Tessie's son, Brett Cleveland.
Good evening. I know we're short on time, so I'll try to be quick. This is my son, Christopher Cleveland. He's my mother's grandson. He and my mother were very close, so I wanted him to be a part of this as much as possible, so that's why I brought him up. Earlier today, we visited my mother's gravesite, and you know, we usually do that on special days, her birthday or a day such as today. And we just wanted to go by there and say congratulations to her and tell her how proud we were of her. And while we were there, I started looking at the plaques on all the grave sites. And most of them said something like beloved mother, beloved friend, beloved sister, or something like that. And when my mother passed, those words didn't quite encompass how I felt about her. So, you know, my family always accuses me of being a little odd. And what I put on her plaque, I don't know, some of you may have visited her gravesite before, but what I ended up putting on there was strength, determination, leadership, loyalty, generosity, knowledge, compassion, and love. And, you know, again, while that seems a little odd to some people, it felt right for me at the time. I began to think about today's ceremony, and I thought about her legacy. And, you know, how she touched so many people's lives, how she made an impact on this world. It's truly amazing. As a child, I think I really took her for granted. You know, as a child, she was all I knew. It felt normal to me. But as I grew older, I started to realize how special she really was. People would, you know, come up to her and genuinely love her and appreciate her, and she almost had like a regal quality about her. And, you know, this month I'll be 41 years old, and being a little older, being a little bit wiser, knowing how tough this world is, knowing how difficult it is to sort of put your print on this world, quite honestly, I'm more amazed at her today than I've ever been in my life. Wow. And her shadow is growing every day, and I mean that in the most positive way. She was an amazing lady. You know, before she passed, I tried to get her to vacation. I tried to get her to take time off from work. I wanted her to see the world. I wanted her to go to Rome, Italy, and just have fun. And I could never get her to do it. It was, you know, she always had a project to do. She always had work to do, and she never did it. And after doing this for years, after trying to encourage her to do this for years, I started to realize that what she really loved was her work, and what she, you know, strived for is to be the best person she could be and do as much as she could for social work as she possibly could. And, you know, it's really, truly what she lived for. I think she would have taken a lot of pride in her induction here tonight. It's truly a great honor for myself, my family, her friends, and many of her colleagues. It's very humbling to me that so many people have the same opinion of her as I do. And I truly just want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart.
Our Jim Kelly. He's the Provost and Executive Vice President of Menlo College and the current President of the 150,000 member National Association of Social Workers. We're very fortunate to have Jim's active participation on the Hall of Distinction Committee and extremely honored to have Jim with us tonight. Let's say welcome to Jim.
Thank you all. It's wonderful to be here. I can never be as eloquent as John. And it's sad for me because I hired Tessie at Long Beach, and she would be so proud of her son today. We had many talks between 5 and 6 at night when she would walk in her high heels and from being a king all day and put on her soft shoes to get into the classroom. But she thought the world of you and the grandson, and we talked a lot about you, your college years, and after that. But I'm so happy to be here tonight, and I'm here to talk about Jeanne Giovannoni. And what I wanted to do was to tell you two stories, two social work stories about Jeanne, that you can read all the wonderful things that she did and accomplished in the bio. And if you remember, there was a very large article in the Los Angeles Times when she passed. But she was really a social worker, and she really was a star, but you never knew it. And the two stories I want to tell you is how she got to Southern California. She started out, she was pretty happy about this story, that she worked at a school in Northern California, and it was at a time of great unrest on college campuses. And this college basically went on strike. Hayakawa was the president of the college, and the faculty all went on strike, and for some reason, the strike was settled, except for one department chose not to go back to work for a whole year. And Jeanne really supported what they were doing, but she just could not be idle for a year. So she applied to a small school in Southern California and got a job. And she then had to let them know that she was leaving. So only one time in her life did she go through a picket line. And she went through the picket line, and she basically put her resignation, she taped to the door of the chair's office. And it's just who Jeanne was. Jeanne was just an incredible person who always stood up for what she believed in and always did it her way. The second story is about the doctoral program that I graduated from and John graduated from and a number of other people in the room. That at one time, half the social work deans in the United States graduated from that school. And at one time, most of the minority deans graduated from that school. And it went through a lot of turmoil schools do. And Jeanne and I and some others were at an alumni event, and they got a new dean. And the new dean was an economist, and he was talking about how wonderful the times were for the school. That most of the students were no longer social workers, that the grade point average in entering class is off the wall, the scores were out of this world, and just at that time, Jeanne stood up, and she said to the other alums, "He just insulted us," clipped her purse and walked right out of the room. And that's who Jeanne Giovannoni was. There's a lot of other stories that Ralph can tell you, or Julie, that some of them aren't so clean. But these were two that I ran by the family to make sure that the family was in agreement with that I could share with you. They were social work stories. But Jeanne played a magnificent role in the lives of many social work educators. Some of the leading faculty, she taught Tessie, some of the leading faculty here in California and around the world, Jeanne taught. And Jeanne gave me some of the most wonderful doctoral students to work with. And she gave me some of the oddest social workers as far as to employ. But they did wonderful jobs in the community, and I will always be grateful to Jeanne, and I will miss Jeanne, and I will always have a twinkle in my eye as I have a glass of wine, and maybe even sneak a cigarette as far as about the time that we spent together. That was Jeanne. And her nephew is going to come up on behalf of the family. Her sister is here, who we didn't know if she was going to make it or not, but she even looks a little bit like Jeanne.
Hi, my name is Roger Wilson, and I'm the nephew of Jeanne, and that is indeed my mom there. I think I want to say a couple more words about Jeanne, my mom. She is 96. She celebrated her 96th birthday. She has always been an active woman. But last spring she cracked several ribs and spent over 2 months in skilled nursing recovering from that. She was discharged sometime in late August, and at that time I was aware we had been invited to the ceremony, and I thought, well, she's better, but actually attending it would be off the table. But Mom continued to do her physical therapy and continued to improve to such an extent that I think it was just 3 weeks ago, Katie would probably know, when I called up and said, well, we're coming. I had the weekend, that weekend, I looked at my mom and I said, just answer the question, Mrs. Wilson, do you want to attend the ceremony for Jeanne? She jutted her chin forward, she said, yes. So we are here. Needless to say, it's a deep honor to be here, to be accepting this important award on behalf of Jeanne, really. And not having been in, I speak, of course, more as family rather than being particularly knowledgeable about the profession. Many of you, I think, know far more about that aspect of Jeanne's life than her family does. She was very modest. We knew some of the highlights: tenure at UCLA and publication of Defining Children of the Storm, a brilliant book that I read and deeply moved, and the war, I guess you would say, methodological text, Defining Child Abuse. I have a story, an anecdote to recount. I had the good fortune to be on a bicycle trip from Vienna to Prague this summer. It was organized, it was an organized trip. People who wanted to bicycle in Europe went on. None of us knew each other. It was a wonderful trip. One of the people, two of the people, we're from Northern California. Two of the other members on the trip were also from Northern California and from, in fact, San Francisco. One of these gentlemen showed up one morning at breakfast wearing a UCLA jersey. And I said, oh, UCLA, what's your affiliation down there? And he says, oh, I got my doctoral. And doctorate. And I said, oh, really? What department? And he looks at me like, well, you will never have heard of this, but it's the Department of Social Welfare. And I said, oh, you must know Jeanne Giovannoni. And he goes, oh my God, she was on my dissertation committee. He got my dissertation approved. After a week of bicycling together, we finally decided that we had met each other at Jeanne's Memorial at UCLA last January. And we shared many stories during that time that if we had more time and they were edited and reformatted, I could share them with you. Needless to say, to me that was said so much about Jeanne. I think in Jim's comments in profile here, he speaks about the mentoring. I think this is a theme now we're hearing among the inductees here. Jeanne was a real mentor to her students, and as in the case of Tom Brock, many of you may know him, this lasted a lifetime, and that they stayed friends for many years after whatever the educational or professional association was. And that is the way Jeanne lived her life. She did do a lot of traveling, and one of the reasons why she could is because she met people all over the world and became friends with them, and they invited her back. She met a painter in Mexico who turned out to be prominent in London, and so she had a standing invitation to visit London, which she took advantage of on occasion. What I'm trying to say is that she lived a full, wonderful life, and much of that having to do with the fact, I think, that she saw the human being, whether it was a cringing student, or a person suffering in the field, or an obnoxious bureaucrat. She had a great insight into human character, and I think that was one of the things that propelled her to such success in her field. I want to close, I guess, just by echoing what Colleen said. Jeanne herself was not particularly religious, but if she is anywhere, I'm sure, looking down on this great assembly, she's very pleased, very gratified to see a full house. So thanks,
I would like now to call to the podium Marilyn Flynn. Dean Flynn is currently the Dean of the USC School of Social Work and has served as the Dean there since 1997. She has an MSW and PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana. She's held several positions of national leadership in the Council on Social Work Education and is the founding president of the St. Louis Group, which represents all North American schools of social work in research-extensive universities. She's also the recent past president of the California Association of Deans and Directors of Social Work Programs. Please welcome Dean Flynn.
Well, we all know that the power of relationships is the single signature of social work, a belief in what those relationships can accomplish. John Milner was an exemplar for his lifetime of sustained relationships that were both personal and professional. He was the first person that I met when I came here as Dean in 1997. And you know, coming to Los Angeles is a very isolating experience. I did go to Silver Lake where all the houses are sitting on top of each other, but I still felt very separated. And John took it upon himself to adopt my husband and I. At age 85 or 86, he was fortunately or unfortunately still driving. And he insisted, because he was, of course, more familiar than I with Los Angeles, he insisted on picking us up and driving us to Pasadena, where Francis Feldman, his lifelong colleague, lived. Those are trips I will never forget. So his impact on me was both personal and professional. He was an extremely unique person. He had an exceptional keenness of mind that was cultivated through his experience at Stanford and at Columbia, and yet it was combined with this deep personal quality that gave him an enduring impact as a teacher, as a practitioner, and as a leader in the fields of mental health, child welfare, and military social work. He was a unique and inspiring mentor until his death at age 99. Some of his former students were still visiting him at that time. His family, his niece and her 2 children, unfortunately, were not able to be here this evening to receive this recognition on his behalf. So what we decided to do is to let you meet John and let him speak for himself.
I want to tell you something. I had a birthday 2 weeks ago, and I'm 97 years old. And outside of the 22 years of growing up, I've been a social worker ever since. So that makes me a pioneer for sure.
For sure. What were the things that attracted you to continue in the field?
I think the basic recognizes the needs of people were so great that some ways I felt I could help. Mm-hmm. And I think it's helped me start to do the most basic thing in social work do, is to start to understand yourself. Mm-hmm. And you move from being an adolescent to being a mature person. The faculty voted to have me come on faculty, and that I did, and started to really enjoy teaching. Mm-hmm. And probably the best experience of any was having years of teaching at USC, later teaching other places simultaneously. Well, I think probably one of the most important things is that workers really learn to know themselves. That not only that, to learn that the workers need to develop a life outside of their work as well. That you do better if you are in touch with the outside world than if you just always with the social workers, even though the best friends I've had in my life are social workers, many of them. Mm-hmm. But I've always had others and associates to this kind of thing. But self-understanding is so important in the job. Well, I really felt that I've had an interesting and rewarding life through, not financially, but in experience. And the experience with people who measure up to so many social workers do. I've been a very lucky guy, and it's a long run in life, and it's a very good one, lots of adventure. And I certainly wish all of those who want to be social workers and are becoming social workers to have happy and successful lives.
Be sure I'm following the right order here. Thank you. Thank you, Dean Flynn. That's actually a little piece of an example of the kinds of oral histories that the California Social Worker Archives does. And we're very happy to have gotten that one in with John Milner, extraordinary person. It's now my pleasure to introduce David Kuroda. He has served on the board of the California Social Welfare Archives for almost 20 years. We, in fact, I think, started about the same time. He earned his MSW at USC and was Division Chief of Family Court Services for the Superior Court of Los Angeles. He currently has a private practice which specializes in mediation, counseling, and collaborative divorce. Interesting. Please welcome David.
Even though our program tonight is brief, the legacy of our honorees will last for many, many years. Much of what we honor about Jim Miyano is in the program, but I'd like to offer a few words that are more personal. Of all the graduates from USC's highly regarded School of Social Work, few have had a greater impact on their communities than Jim Miyano. After earning his MSW in 1960, Jim went on to work for the LA County Probation and a group called SSG, Special Service for Groups. This was at a time of great upheaval among the schools of social work, and the Asian community had lobbied the NIMH, the National Institute for Mental Health, to fund a training center so that more Asian Americans could become social workers. Until that time, there were very, very few Asian American social workers who were being accepted into the schools and were working in the field of social work. I remember some of the meetings with the NIMH people and how Jim was articulate, he was polished, he was effective, he was an effective communicator and always had a way of saying the right thing without being passive, without being pushy. He became my model of what a social worker could be and should be. He went on to become the project director of the demonstration project that was the first of its kind and one of the most important training programs in LA County. It was called the Amtrak Project, or the Asian American Mental Health Training Center. In fact, some of the graduates from that program are here tonight to help honor Jim in his memory. Many of the leaders in the Asian American community today came out of that project. And so what Jim did was very, very significant. He was one of the most important leaders in the Asian American community. And he founded the Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council. He served as the first president of the National Asian American Social Workers. He was the senior deputy to former LA County Supervisor Ed Edelman. He also worked with the National Association of Social Workers, NASW, and others to form the first NASW Minority Social Work Caucus. Jim Miyano dedicated his career and his life to addressing the most pressing issues in our community: poverty, health, drugs, gangs, and education. He was a giant in the Asian American community. On a more personal note, had it not been for Jim Miyano, I would not be here today. I would not have become the social worker that I am. My life would not be as blessed and privileged as it has become. What happened is that when I had applied for admission to the school, I was asked for an interview. I think at that time, only the marginal students were invited for interviews. If your grades were high and your test scores were high and you had good experience, you didn't need to be interviewed. But I was one of the marginal students, and my application had been submitted, so I was invited to come in for an interview with one of the senior faculty members at USC and Jim Miyano. As the interview progressed, I was asked, David, who wrote your autobiographical statement? That's a part of the essay that we submit along with our application. I thought the question strange, and I said, I wrote it. Well, did anybody help you? No. And as the person asked the questions, I realized that my essay was lousy. And so as the interview went on, I became more and more discouraged, and I was getting the sense that there was no way I was ever going to be accepted by what I thought at that time was one of the finest schools of social work in the country. Jim could tell how I was feeling, and he took me aside afterwards and he said, David, let me help you with this. He mentored me and coached me and encouraged me so that I didn't give up, and rather than walk away and give up on an important profession, I revised my application with his guidance. The new autobiographical statement started with the following sentence: I was born in a concentration camp. It went on to probably impress some of the readers, so that after waiting weeks and weeks, I finally got the letter saying, "Welcome to the USC School of Social Work," and I was accepted. I never got to thank Jim for what he did for me. Some of you may know that he died a couple of years ago. But I am glad that tonight I can thank his family, his friends, because I'm only one of many, many social workers that is here in the field, that is committed to doing what Jim valued because of Jim Miyano's life. There is more that I could say, but we were told to be brief, and I'm following the program. It is my great pleasure then to induct Jim Miyano into the Hall of Distinction. Representing Jim are his sister, Ruth Beatles, and his daughter, Carol Ann Ellery. Would you please come forward?
Our heartfelt thanks to the California Social Welfare Archives at USC for this distinguished honor conferred on our late brother, Jim. And a huge thanks to David Corona for putting forth Jim's name for this honor, and a special big thanks to Kate Mokowski for enabling handling all the details. You were always there for me to ask questions and you answered them. It's an honor and privilege for Carol Ann Miyano Ellery and myself to accept this honor you have given him on behalf of the family, of his friends, and work colleagues, one who even came down from Seattle, Washington, to honor him for Jim's dedicated work in the community, particularly for the Asian communities in Los Angeles County. His late wife, Bobby Jean, and our late parents would have been so pleased and proud to see him honored this way. When our parents immigrated to California from Japan in 1928 as missionaries in the Tendai Church, they had no idea that their eldest son would grow up to serve so many communities in the Asian communities in LA County and to help their voices be heard. You might possibly know that in the Japanese culture, everything one does is a reflection not only upon the individual, but his family, his parents, his ancestors. So this recognition and induction to the Social Work Hall of Distinction is truly a cause for rejoicing through many generations of the Miyano family. And I know his grandchildren will grow up hearing of this honor for their grandfather and will be very proud of him, as are all of his family and friends. And I'd just like to add on a personal note, growing up as a younger sister of Jim, and he was the #1 son of 5 siblings, who seemed to always be in the favored position to receive all the new toys, and we got the hand-me-down clothes. But as I got older, I came to realize that he also had all the responsibilities and duties of the oldest son, for which I came to esteem and respect him. So Jim will always be my John, my older brother. So thank you, Jim, John, for bringing this honor for yourself and for your family. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to call to the podium Sally Bell, a professor in the Social Work Department in the School of Behavioral and Applied Sciences at Azusa Pacific University. She earned her MSW and PhD from UCLA and worked for 13 years for LA County's Community Mental Health, McLaren Children's Center, and Baldwin Park's Alcohol Abuse Program. Please come on up, Sally.
I was admonished to behave myself. Most of you who know me know that that's a tall order. But I'm going to try and master it because I am humbled that I was asked to present to you your next honoree, Dolores Rodriquez. I've always admired Dolores for her energy, her passion, and her skill at being a dynamic social worker. And it was about maybe 5 years ago, I finally was asked to join as comadres, which have been a leading force for Latinos in social work in Southern California. And so I've gotten to know her a little more from that perspective. So when I called and I asked Dolores, what would you like for me to say? You know, what are the important things? And she said that she wanted me to call attention to 2 activities of which she has always been the most proud of. She has been committed to developing programs to serve the Latino community. And under this passion and this drive, she had set some really models that oftentimes have been copied nationwide. The first one was the Latino Adoption Unit, along with Rodriquez. They organized an adoption to encourage Latino foster parents to adopt Latino children so that they didn't languish in the foster system. The other was her response to a need at USC County General Hospital, where she, as a reaction to what was happening in the community, helped organize a rape crisis intervention program that addressed Latino patients. And then, as an extension of that, she helped start the East LA Rape Hotline for Spanish-speaking victims. And as a member of Las Comadres, she was instrumental in developing El Centro as a training ground for Latino social workers and services to the community. She was a founding member of the Social Work Latino Network and their first statewide president. And she helped develop and encourage people to develop MSW programs at Cal State LA and Cal State Northridge. And has always enjoyed mentoring Latino social workers. Many of us Latino social workers here in Southern California have been very fortunate because of her mentoring. In fact, Carlos Sosa said the other day that most of the social work students that she has mentored have now led successful lives as administrators and as academicians. The rest of her accomplishments, I think you can read in the program. So it is with great honor, tremendous pride, and awe that I present to you Dolores Rodriquez, the California Social Hall of Distinction plaque on behalf of the National Association of Social Workers, California Chapter. can tell that there are a lot of Latinos here. We make a lot of noise. It is really a great honor for me to receive this award, and I thank Sally for making the presentation. Sally is one of our members of the Comadres. Comadres is a group of Latina social workers that we started years ago, and many of the programs for which I am being honored today started with that group. It was their idea, their planning, and their implementation that helped to make this honor for me. And I also want to thank the archives for this honor. You know, the greatest honor one can get is to be the praise from its colleagues and co-workers, and for that I'm greatly honored. But as you know, there is no I in the word team, as is often said, and I'm not here to accept this award just for myself. I would not be here if it were not for the hard work, dedication, and help that I have received through all these years, beginning with the Chicano unit, which is the little noisy group they were the first social workers that I hired to help with some of these programs. And I also would like to thank, last but not least, my family. Without their help and their support, I would not be standing here. They were the ones that helped me continue our parents' legacy, working for others in social consciousness. Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to call up Frances Capel. She's an active member of the Hall of Distinction Committee. You have fans here, Frances. She earned her PhD at USC and served as the Associate Dean of the School of Social Work from 1989 until her retirement in 2004. In addition to her contributions to USC, Frances has worked as a social worker at DPSS and at LAUSD and has served on numerous boards and committees. Please welcome my friend, Frances.
Very much. Once upon a time, long time ago, when I was a little girl, in grade school, long time ago, in grade school, I remember studying history. And it was always about people and places and events that happened what seemed to be a long time before that time of my life. I'm standing here tonight truly, truly honored to present our next distinguished inductee, Barbara J. Solomon. Who is a leader in social work practice, research, education, and administration. And I am in awe of the fact that I am now and have been witnessing history in the making from the time that I met her. Actually, I met her when I entered the MSW program at USC back in 1969, 3 years after her appointment as assistant professor. But I was not fortunate enough to study with her in those 2 years. However, I had another chance when I entered the doctoral program in 1977, and there was Dr. Solomon in all her magnificence teaching the doctoral statistics class. Daunting material, I want to tell you. And Dr. Solomon not only covered it with ease, but she put my classmates and me at ease as we studied. She had an encouraging phrase when we looked perplexed. She would say, "Not to worry, the train is going to come this way again." Now, really, those were a wonderful set of words of content that built on a foundation that she laid so well and was more and more integrated throughout the semester. It really was helpful. In all my dealings with Dr. Solomon, this encouraging, positive attitude has always prevailed. If you said you wanted to climb Mount Everest, she would be there, encouraging you and offering to help you achieve that goal. But what else might you expect from one who graduated from high school and started out at age 15 on an educational trajectory that would put her in the position of propelling an entire profession and all of us to new heights? What confidence that must have taken to go from Houston, Texas to Howard University in Washington, D.C. at age 15. I suspect she always had the attitude, I can do this. And she has always been ready to pass that on to the rest of us. You can do this. It is little wonder then that perhaps one of the hallmarks of her illustrious career has been chronicled in her groundbreaking work, Black Empowerment, Social Work in Oppressed Communities, and in related publications on this topic. And that in a history of the empowerment tradition in social work, Dr. Solomon is identified as the pioneer of empowerment theories among social workers. Dr. Solomon is a very serious scholar, prolific in her research, her publications, and her presentations. Professionally, she is well known locally, nationally, and internationally. She has met with world leaders. Yet when you sit with her, she is all yours, focused on what you have to say or what you may be concerned about. She is truly fascinated with ideas and challenges that expand the mind. She is constantly collecting data, and the profession has benefited by how she has processed all that data and given it back to us in such usable form. This wonderfully gifted woman is not only all that you will read about in her biographical sketch in your booklet, or all that you will see in the tape of her interview for the Social Welfare Archives. But she does other things well. And you must note that these have been accomplished simultaneously to her career development. She is the wife to Donald for nearly 50 years. I understand they'll celebrate their 50th anniversary next year. She is a mother of 4 children, one of whom I know was born while she was studying for her doctorate. She's a grandmother and an active member of organizations providing services in and to the community, and on and on. I feel so fortunate to say that I have been her student, her colleague, her mentee, and most of all, her friend. Please welcome our next inductee to the Hall of Distinction, Dr. Barbara J.
Thank you so much, Frances, for those kind words. I am deeply honored by this induction into the Hall of Distinction. Frances mentioned that I had started on this journey at 15 when I went to Howard University. This spring, I had the opportunity to give the commencement address to the School of Social Work at Howard University. I did not get my master's in social work from that school. I was there as an undergraduate at 15, remember? And I had never met a social worker at that time. In fact, I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I hadn't met one of those either. But I had read a book, and I thought it might be nice to have the kind of job where you could sit and someone would be on a couch telling you all of their intimate stories. And so I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Then I discovered that I had to go to medical school first. And the lab courses where I had to look through microscopes and try to draw a picture of what I saw inspired me to do other things. I decided that maybe psychology was what I really wanted to major in, and so when I went to the first advisor, they told me I needed to have a minor in one of the natural sciences. I should have foreign language, both French and German, through scientific. And all of this was because the psychology department at Howard at that time was very physiologically, experimentally oriented. And I decided I liked psychology, but I didn't think I needed to go to any of those advisors again, so I just took any course that I liked for the rest of my 4 years. When it was time to graduate, and I had to identify a minor, I did not have enough courses in any other subject to be a minor except geography. And the reason I had all those courses in geography was because the chair of the geography department I had a serious crush on. And I took everything he taught, political geography, economic geography, any of it. I was told that I could possibly go to a school of social work. And my father had been a Pullman porter who had made it possible for my family, my mother and my sister and I to travel to visit cousins in California while my mother went to graduate school at UC Berkeley. The only school of social work I actually applied to was to the University of California at Berkeley. I didn't know that they had a minimum age at that time of 21. I was only 19. And I didn't know, but they did let me in. And I have been supremely happy that they did ever since. I cannot imagine another profession that could have possibly meant as much to me as social work has done. Social work is, in fact, the profession of the 21st century. It is the profession where we are not interested only in problem solving in terms of human relationships, but we are desperately committed to human rights and social justice. And that's the kind of society that we so desperately need now. And I am proud to be part of a profession that is committed to bringing it about. Thank you so much.
Administration and social policy courses in the School of Social Work at San Diego State University and conducts research and consultation projects through their Academy for Professional Excellence. Tom earned his MSW at San Diego State and his DSW at UCLA. Come on up, Tom.
I'm sorry, I just have to go off script for a minute. I'm really moved about all this discussion of history and the history of this great profession, and I've been struck that I think every single nominee talked about their person here as a mentor, and just the things that these people have done for people that they're bringing into the profession, and the great things that all of us mentees have done. I think that's really affirming for the profession. Jean Giovannoni was one of my students, or one of my professors at UCLA. I hope everyone will later review the accomplishments of John Wedemeyer, the person that we nominated in the program materials. I just want to mention one thing here. John was the founding director of two hugely influential agencies in San Diego Youth Services, which just celebrated its 40th anniversary, a multi-million-dollar budget, top-notch programs all over San Diego County, still operating within his sense of vision and values, and the Community of Congress of San Diego, which was really a collaboration back before anybody was using the term. The community-based service delivery system in San Diego literally wouldn't be the same if it wouldn't have been for John. His vision, his knowledge, and his energy and his hard work really helped shape the community-based service sector. When federal revenue sharing got passed in 1972, he was one of the lead people in getting San Diego County, San Diego City, and United Way to spend over half of the federal revenue sharing money on human service programs. And when most cities were spending their money on transportation and law enforcement services. John's father, Jack Wedemeyer, was the director of the California State Department of Social Welfare, and Katie told me earlier that a board member pointed out that John's father was once in the 80s on the board of directors for the California Social Welfare Archives. I met John in 1972. I responded to a job ad that said, come work long hours with low pay to work with runaway youth. And that sounded like a perfect job to me at the time. He's really the major reason that I've been a member of NASW since 1975, and the major influence in my development as a social work administrator. Long before anybody in the community-based sector paid attention to management in the 70s, John did. He shaped my views about the importance of good management, planning, design of programs, documentation, evaluation, and also a passion for social justice. He's had a huge effect in developing and mentoring and educating two generations of social workers, and some of us are here tonight. We got 15 people to sign his nomination letter just without even thinking about it. I'm sure we could have gotten a lot more, as could the other people that nominated individuals tonight. I sincerely appreciate you making John a member of the Hall. I'm very grateful that he learned about this before he passed away in February. John's wife, Mary Ann, was actively involved with San Diego Youth Services back when the agency got founded. I think their bedroom was actually the office for the bridge, this runaway center, so they had to get up in the morning and so that we could use the room for the office. She's now an administrator in San Diego County Behavioral Health Services. She and I worked together at a youth agency in the 70s. I valued her friendship and her support of John and his work and all of his long hours over the years. Their daughter Ann is also here tonight. She's a bilingual special education teacher in Santa Cruz. And Mary Ann and Ann, please come up. We want to recognize John and also you for a great career on the part of John, and thank you so much for letting him come into your Hall of Distinction.
My daughter Jeanne and I would like to accept on John's behalf this distinguished recognition from the California Social Welfare Archives. And this award is also accepted by the rest of John's family with delight, the people who could not be here tonight. I want to especially thank also Tom and friends in San Diego who worked hard at their end to make this honor possible tonight. As Tom mentioned, we lost John this past February, and it was so heartwarming to him And he was so pleased and honored to find out about this award. It was actually quite shortly before he died. For John, social work was a calling. More than just a job or even a profession, it was a calling. He lived at 724. He wanted everybody he knew to become a social worker and spent a lot of time proselytizing everywhere. Even in his church, when we got about 40 or 50 Sudanese refugees suddenly at our church, he immediately, his strength was starting new agencies, but as soon as we had these Sudanese refugees, he immediately started a social welfare agency within the church to serve the Sudanese refugees. We met early in the 60s, but by 69 we were married here in San Diego, and John was just graduating from the School of Social Work. It was a very young school at that time, and at the time they had a track for community organizing. I'm not sure if that's still there, but back then that was his strength. He wasn't of a mind to go along the clinical track, but really knew he wanted to be an agency builder and an organizer. Back then we thought it was the early 70s, and we really thought that we could save the world. A lot of people did back then. And we rented an old, decrepit mansion just above downtown San Diego, and a group of John's colleagues from the School of Social Work with him decided they wanted to make it a modern Hull House. So we had all kinds of things going on, including some of the greatest parties I've ever but instead of a Hull House model, which was, hard to replicate, he started working with a group to set up a runway shelter. It was the time when lots of street agencies were just having their birth and their growth, and literally things were like glued together with bubble gum and people out of their hearts with no money, and they went to work trying to get money coerced from the public sector to fund social services. And from the top balcony of this house where we were running the social, we watched the Coronado Bay Bridge being built little by little. So the agency became known as the Bridge for Runaways. And again, it's been around for a long time, and the agency that it became, San Diego Services, is still going strong. I talked a bit about family, but I also wanted to talk about John's extended family. Some of the friends that we made back during those days when we were, building street agencies, are here tonight. And another dozen or more of them are still close enough in our friendship network that they're like extended families. We sort of bonded in a way that was truly wonderful and really does support me now. And this goes back almost 40 years. And then we also have friends here from slightly later shifts in his development. But again, on Ann's behalf and my behalf, I want to thank the archives for this wonderful honor. Thank you.
I'm very proud to be in the company of such great work and all of you. I think there's a word that is used now very frequently, not often by me, but that I think describes it, and that is awesome. Thank you. Esther is the president of the California Social Welfare Archives, a member of our Hall of Distinction Committee, and a clinical associate professor at the USC School of Social Work since 2002. Esther, wrap it up.
I can only echo those sentiments.
My thoughts are, what a magical evening. For me, every year coming to this event, I'm always inspired, and I feel that my energies and commitment to the field of social work are just re-energized. And my hope is that feeling is contagious here tonight, and that for those of you who are in the social work profession, that when you leave, you feel that those professional batteries have been recharged. Just a word about the California Social Welfare Archives. About 30 years ago, a group of social workers and faculty at USC School of Social Work were becoming concerned that all of the remarkable work that they'd been involved in over the years, and the work that their colleagues around the state had been involved in, was at risk of being lost. They were becoming older, they were beginning to think about retirement, and the question arose, what about what we have done? Where will it go? Who will remember? Who will know? How will it achieve a level of importance in our field? And so informally, they began meeting and strategizing, developing a plan to collect materials, to collect information, and gather it together to preserve it for future generations. Over time, the informal organization became a formal organization, and today, the CSWA, the California Social Welfare Archives, is a nonprofit organization operating under the auspices of the School of Social Work at the University of Southern California, and is affiliated with the USC libraries, where those early materials and materials that we collected over the years are being safely kept and maintained by archivists and the university library system. Currently, we collect and preserve documents and personal oral histories. An example is the oral history by John Milner, which was completed just shortly before his death this year. And the archives are available to those who seek to examine linkages between the past and the present in order to learn from history. I think most of us here tonight would conclude that there's a lot of historical content in everything that we have seen and heard. And our role is to preserve and make this available to researchers, historians, students, teachers, policymakers, among others. Consistent with this work, the Hall of Distinction was incorporated into the CSWA much more recently, and its purpose is to honor and memorialize individuals who made significant and verifiable contributions to welfare, social welfare in California. So, before I end, just a few comments regarding tonight's program. I have to say a big thank you to the CSWA Board of Directors for support of the Hall of Distinction. And those members that you did not meet on the program tonight include such people as Rafael Angulo, our videographer, Ruth Britton, one of the founding members of the CSWA, still actively participating on our board, Alma Folks, Heather Halpern, and Marlene Wagner. I also want to extend a very special thank you to Colleen Friend, the chair of the Hall of Distinction Committee, for her outstanding commitment and leadership for the Hall this year. Colleen, and that thank you I do want to extend to the committee who worked tirelessly throughout the year to prepare this event tonight. I also want to thank you, the family, the friends, and the colleagues of our inductees in this newest class of Hall of Distinction members for sharing your evening with us to applaud and honor the work of these very special leaders in the field of social work. Now, a few mundane issues, shifting from the sublime to the mundane. Tonight, for your convenience, this sounds like an ad. That's what we are. Tonight, for your convenience, we will have students out at the table where you check in with a limited quantity of DVDs containing oral histories of our inductees for this year for a nominal fee to cover production costs. So stop and take a look. You might want to just take a peek at what we have. We'll also be posting this event. It's all been videotaped. We'll be posting it on our website probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So take a look, see what happened tonight, relive the experience. It's also possible, if you want a personal copy of the video of this event, that you could also talk with the young people at the table about ordering a copy of the event. Our next induction will be held in conjunction with the NASW State Conference next year at the San Francisco Marriott on October the 29th. Mark your calendar. We hope to see you there, and for participation in the process of nominating inductees into the hall. That process is underway now, so check with our website and see how you can participate in that activity. With all of that, I thank you for being here. It's been a wonderful evening. I hope to see you again at our next event. Thank you.